All right, Steve, get a load of this. This is something that just came across our way today, and it deserves a discussion. There are sources that are out there that the ACC administrators had informal discussions about a possible Pac-12 and Big 12 additions or a merger. Big news here. We've talked about it in the past in some of these shows, how who has the upper hand between the Big 12, the Pac-12, or even the ACC, especially after what happened this July after USC and UCLA announced their intentions to join the Big Ten. And obviously we know from the past that Oklahoma and Texas are joining the SEC. There is something in the mix here. Something's brewing. We might be on our way to two super conference leagues that might be in the route. What do you think about this initially before we dig into it?
Well, the thing that jumped out at me is that the story was broken originally by the Raleigh News and Observer. And when we're talking about the ACC, that is the paper of record. Okay. I mean, it covers all of the Carolinas, but primarily North Carolina. And when you think of the ACC, you tend to think, I mean, no, don't get upset, Clemson fans or Florida State fans. I'm not denigrating you, or Pitt fans or whatever. North Carolina is the cradle of the ACC. So if they're breaking a story like this, there has to be something to it. Now, again, obviously nothing really has flushed out even since that story broke. But I have to wonder why the ACC would do this. And the only thing that I can come up with is television revenue in contract. You know, I mean, they had a pretty good deal, and their ACC network is affiliated with ESPN, underwritten, I mean, to a degree by ESPN. But since that time, the SEC and the Big Ten have negotiated new deals. And even the Pac-12, even the Big 12, rather, it doesn't quite match what the ACC television and media revenues are. But you have to wonder, is that what they want to do to kind of get conversations rolling there so that they could enhance their existing deals and help secure themselves? No matter how all this flushes out, I think the ACC wants to be able to at least be in the same ballpark as the Big Ten and the SEC as far as television and media revenues.
100%. I think this is exactly what this is all about, closing the revenue gap between the conferences that we've already heard about making big deals this past summer. The Big Ten with a $1 billion contract with not ESPN, which is the big part. The ACC has a long-term contract with ESPN. I believe that goes till 2036. And the Pac-12 and the Big 12 have media deals that are expiring soon. So this is a great opportunity. I think we're going to hear a lot more about it in the offseason. Looking at this article, it talks about the revenue between the conferences. We just talked about the Big Ten with $1 billion. It was about half that for the ACC last year. Revenue was about $570 million, 578 to be exact, for the 2020-21 fiscal year. Adding in those other big teams, even if it doesn't involve a USC, a UCLA, a Texas, or an Oklahoma, but you still get those markets of Texas, with Texas Tech, with Oklahoma State, you're still going to get those markets. So I think this is a huge idea. I think this is something that is going to be very interesting, and it's not the last we hear about it. ACC currently has 14 members, though. So if they merge, there's an opportunity, a possibility, that we could see a conference with 30-plus teams that would move the hand back to the Big Ten and the SEC.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not that it would be a bad decision. I just don't understand really, does it really benefit the ACC in the long term to have now a merged identity? So really, if we're talking Big 12 and Pac-12, we're talking coast to coast, Northeast, Southwest, Northwest. I just don't understand where the end game is for them, and from the school standpoint, because you're talking about travel costs and all those other things. So even if you're getting a bigger pie of the media contracts because the revenues are going up, you're also now having to spend more money. And we're not just talking football when you do these things. We're talking all of the sports. So, and when you have non-revenue generating sports, eventually cuts happen there because they're trying to cover the costs, that are affiliated to make your football program have bigger ratings. I mean, the ACC is a basketball conference, good football conference, but it's a basketball conference. How does it affect their reputation? Because the Pac-12 and the Big 12 are Power 5 conferences, but from a basketball standpoint, I'm not as sure. Now, with women's athletics, I think it would be great for women's athletics because, especially in the Pac-12, but there's some really good Big 12 schools as well that have solid traditional women's athletic programs. I think that enhances it there. I've been going back and forth. I'm rambling here, but I'm really perplexed when I shared this story with you. I just can't get my mind around it yet, where it benefits the ACC other than just a new TV contract or a renegotiated TV contract.
Yeah, I think this is more, in my mind, it's more of gaining the edge before the SEC and the Big Ten get their hands on other big competitors that are still in the Pac or in the Big 12. And knowing they have the upper edge right now because those teams or those conferences, media deals are expiring. So I think that's their idea. I don't know if it necessarily is going to benefit them right away. I mean, think about it. There's an opportunity that we might have to see a game of any sport or traveling from the Miami Hurricanes to University of Washington if this happens. So that's a pretty far. It's a pretty far trip, and then you still have to find a way to get schooling and all that. So very interesting, without a doubt. But there's definitely a spot because of revenue gap. This isn't just about college football. You're absolutely right. This is all sports. But when we think about this will have major implications on college football. The reason that this is probably happening is due to the expanded playoffs of college football. The highest revenue in all of college sports does come from football. So It's something that we obviously have to keep in mind when we are discussing this sport today. The expansion is not the only option that's going to be on the table. We obviously know that. We talked about in the past that the Pac-12 has an opportunity to sign a media deal with Amazon. The Big 12, they have huge deals. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw them reach out and get another media deal. It's not going to be difficult for any of these conferences if they remain to stay independent to get a media deal with anyone. ESPN, I'm sure, would be open arms to any of them as soon as they wanted to. It just might not be the deal they're looking for. So there might be a nice card in the ACC's pocket that can pull that out and say, hey, look, we have a great relationship with ESPN. We're open until 2036. None of our teams can leave until 2036 unless they want to lose their TV deals. Come with us. We'll renegotiate. We'll make the price higher, and you'll have ABC, ESPN, ESPN Plus, all that good stuff. And then you won't have to worry about streaming deals like Amazon. You'll have not only college football or college basketball, but other college sports on the ESPN Plus apps. It's a huge win in my mind if they follow the ACC route based on the relationship with ESPN. Is it the right route? Not sure. Do I think that it's a good idea that we have two super conferences, Steve? I think that's wild to me. I think that we just talked about, we have 10 right now, if you think about it, with the Power 5 and the G5 and independents. You could even call it 11, 10 and a half if you want. But two super leagues? That's interesting. And we didn't even get onto the pace of what happened with Notre Dame as well. I think they would fall in with the ACC based on ESPN deals, but that's just me.
Well, it's funny, too, that you bring up the streaming deals that we had discussed last week that the Pac-12 was looking at. Does the ACC, with this new coast-to-coast mega conference, want to perhaps cast their lot in with streaming? Because certainly for Major League Baseball, now we've got the exclusive NFL games on Thursday nights with Amazon Prime. Is that something where they would be willing to roll the dice and literally control the streaming options, because more and more people are moving away from the traditional, cable satellite packages and going to streaming packages. Is that something where they could lock up, an Amazon or Peacock or whatever that it would be? Is that where they're looking at their long-term future as far as securing revenues? That's another option which I hadn't really considered till you brought that up. But it's interesting because now obviously the Pac-12 sort of has that inside track now with Amazon. Is this also maybe fueling ACC wanting to take the bull by the horns and forming this conference?
Yeah, I'm really interested in this. This is going to be a story we're going to continue covering throughout the weeks, probably into the off season. This is something that I think will happen quick, but it doesn't have to. Because of that media deal with the ACC going till 2036, the Atlantic Coast Conference really has the opportunity to weigh their options. They don't have to push right away. However, we have to keep in mind that the Big Ten and SEC will not wait until 2036. If they want something done right away, they will not be afraid. So there's definitely some weighing of options that could happen, but it's something to keep in mind. Let us know in the comments below what you think about this. I'm interested. And while you're there, give us a like and subscribe. We want to definitely trying to grow this page here. But something that I'm interested in is the Super Leagues. What do you think about that? Because if there is an expansion, there will definitely be some sort of Super League. Let us know in the comments below.